If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Toews. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. Awesome. Uh, and Kathy, you got the co-pilot? Thank you for that. That's so good. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on, and it's some of the important things that especially this things like this storm, right? You feel very, very, you could feel very, very helpless, frightened, angry, have that whole whack of emotions. And we were having this conversation on the weekend, and I shared a situation. I think I've shared it here, but I'm going to share it again on Hurricane Michael. When that was a few years ago now, at least 6 years ago. This hurricane, my interest in it started because I had a very a lucid dream. Like it was absolutely really, really real. And I saw a tsunami coming in on the east coast of Florida. And I woke up and I shared it with Ed, and I said, it's very unusual to see a tsunami coming in off the Atlantic. Generally, we hear them in the Pacific, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so then on a day or so later, this hurricane started being part of our news in central Canada. And it was showing that Michael was in the Gulf, but it was starting and it was moving around the end of Florida and then going up the east. And I said, so I said, wow. Plus 258. Sorry, I'll turn this off. Um, Plus two. I'm getting crazy calls like from Egypt. This is nuts. Okay. Anyway, so this storm is coming, and I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to do something with this storm because I saw this tsunami. And then they started talking about surges, the tide surges coming in. And I realized that maybe what I saw wasn't a tsunami, but the high water and again the coast was being evacuated. And I went to Father and I said, "Is this my mandate? What shall I do?" And he said, "It's not your mandate." And we had this conversation like, why would I have the dream? Why would I see it happening? Why would it be at this time? Why would all these things be in play? And then you tell me it's not my mandate. And of course, that was really quiet because why don't I just listen and learn? And then what happened was there was one of the quantum shifts was down in Missouri, and I had gone planned to go and did go to it. And it was one morning we were sitting out on the deck having breakfast, and people were at these tables, and we're getting to know each other. I saw this table of young people, and Brittany, and I don't remember her last name, but she was sitting there with a bunch of her friends. Anyway, I asked to join them. I did, and as I'm sitting there, we started talking about this very subject. And so I told him the whole thing about the dream, about the hurricane coming in, about the tidal surges, and my thought of tsunami, and then asking God what to do. And he's saying, "It's not your mandate." And I said, I find that just so, I just have so many questions. And the whole table laughed. And Brittany said, "Well, Helen, we can answer that because it was our mandate." And I thought, what a gift, right? For God to put all those pieces together. Just I asked the question, but it also, since then, I don't just jump into things because I see a need. I take the time and ask, and that's what I did about this one as well. And yeah, so I just followed the instructions that I was given. But I think one of the keys is to ask, is to because we want to partner with him. We are one, and one doesn't separate and just do their own thing. So it's a learning process, especially when you want to go and fix things, if you're a fixer. Anyway, I want to, if with your permission, have a little bit of a um, message tonight that is springboarding from last week. And I don't know if my apologies for it coming in the being posted late. I don't think it got posted until Monday, but and I am and I do apologize because I was hoping that excuse me, please. I was hoping that the meditation would be there for you if you want to revisit it, and it's on now. So. Excuse me. Did anybody see it? Karen? Okay. Anyway, I wanted to uh, just sort of do a little bit of a part two because what happened I is that we are learning so much and so fast that I really felt that since Gina did her, I thought just exceptional talk 3 weeks ago now, and opened us up to some questions to start having conversation on things that we have questions about. And that's why I really would like to have more conversation, but in it, lay down some things that I would like to share so that with the questions, particularly when they're very controversial, and in particular, this week it's about the names of like, does God have a name? Does he have a name? And that is sort of been the thread that's come up in the last few weeks. What do we call him? Because the common name that we hear is God is being called Yahweh. So this is part of the conversation, and I wanted to share where my particular study has gone, and it also comes out of last week. I wanted to, deepen the understanding too of why I did the review of the God Code, and in particular, why the review of something that you're familiar with was important. So we took a look at last week again at the symbols are called living letters in Hebrew of Yod, Hey, Bob, and Hey. And these symbols in Hebrew are common, as we saw last week again, in many ancient languages. But the Hebrew letters were the ones that the Harvard University used in the decoding of actually what it ended up meaning to us. And they've taken a bit of a life outside of their intended understanding, I think, and that is that they evolved from the nature of describing the nature of God into being a name. And when we name something, we box it up. When uh, we just box things up. And in a way, we've rewritten the scripture. And I say that because I don't find anywhere in the scripture that God tells me that his name is Yahweh. I know it's written there. I know that many Bibles have got it written, but when we take it back to where that originated, it didn't originate as a name. It originated in the sounds or in the breath of Yod, He, Vav, He. It began when people needed a name. And rather than accepting the fact that God maybe just was revealing his nature, not his name. And and it goes even deeper than that, because we found out, because not only did God release these symbols that speak of his nature to us, we see that they are an intricate part of who we are as human beings. And I know that it's popular to call God Yahweh, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just addressing where we started a few weeks ago and maybe expanding the conversation. When you read the works of Yahweh in the Old Testament, the being who is being addressed as Yahweh is often portrayed as a warrior, like someone who fights, like, or a king that rules by force and by terror, somebody who enslaves or dictates the lives of people's fates in hideous ways. And we looked a couple of weeks ago at the scripture that the name Yahweh was inserted in, that came across as quite wicked, right? We saw the conquest of Canaan in Deuteronomy 7. It says Yahweh commands the Israelites to destroy nations. And I'm just going to read what it says. It says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, and clears away many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations more numerous and mighty than you. When the Lord your God gives them over to you to defeat them, then you must devote them to complete destruction. You shall make no covenant with them and show no mercy. And I read that and I went, show no mercy. Does that sound like God? Does that sound like Father, like a father? Does that sound like the Father that Jesus, like Yeshua? Did it sound like God? In the Battle of Jericho, it was the same thing. That it says Yahweh commands the Israelites to destroy everything in the city. The city and all that's within it shall be devoted to God for destruction. And it says they devoted all in the city to destruction, both men, women, young, old, sheep, oxen, donkeys, with the edge of the sword. Does that sound like love? Hand-to-hand combat. The edge of the sword would be hand-to-hand combat. It would be people looking into the eyes of one another, of their victims, and some of them innocent, because they're talking about animals and young and old, and then seeing them and then destroying them, killing them. In 1 Samuel, we see the same thing, where it says Yahweh commands King Saul to destroy, and the Amalekites as to destroy the Amalekites as punishment for what they did. Well, it says, do not spare them, but kill both man, woman, child, and infant, ox, sheep, camel, donkey. Does that sound like compassion? Does that sound familiar to the justifications of the governments today seem to speak over their enemies? You know, we see it, or I listen to it when I listen to broadcasts that does, whoever's firing at whomever, they seem to be justified because the other side is wrong. Does that sound like God talking? No. These commands are often understood within the framework of divine justice and judgment. But is there a justification for evil? The Canaanite nations, for example, were described as engaging in practices that were abominable to God, called Yahweh. Things such as child sacrifice, extreme idolatry, etc. And the destruction of these people was seen as a form of divine judgment for their sin. My question is that God's way? Is this the nature of an unconditionally loving God? These passages and many more have been the subject of extensive debate and discussion, particularly concerning the ethics of such commands. Some modern readers struggle with reconciling these accounts with the overall biblical themes of mercy, love, and justice. Various interpretations have been offered, ranging from viewing these commands as a part of a specific historical and cultural context to more symbolic or theological readings. And others argue that these passages should be understood with the larger narrative of the Bible, which ultimately points to God's redemptive purposes. I would give that thought. But if we believe that, then you know what we're saying? The end justifies the means. So I have more questions. I have more what if questions. The Bible frequently identifies God as Yahweh, especially the Old Testament, where Yahweh is presented as the covenantal name of God. And there's several scriptures that depict God as Yahweh. Exodus 3:13 or 15. In this passage, he reveals his name to Moses at the burning bush. And it says, and then Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say to this people of Israel, the Lord God of your fathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered through all generations. The phrase I am who I am in Hebrew is, now I don't know if I'm saying it right, Hayah, Ehyaeh, Hayah, Asher, Hayah. The phrase Hayah, Asher, Hayah is found there in Exodus, where God is revealing his name. But it's typically translated as I am who I am. There's a breakdown of its literal interpretation because Hayah, the verb, means to be or to exist, and it can be translated as I am or I will be, indicating the ongoing or timeless existence of God. And in this context, Hayah suggests God's self-existence, eternal presence, and unchanging nature. Asher is the Hebrew relative pronoun that can mean who, which, what, or that, and it acts as a conductor between the two occurrences of Hayah, allowing for a variety of interpretation. The second Hayah repeats the idea of God's existence or being, and it actually establishes at a fact. You know, often when you read in Scripture, when a name is mentioned twice, it's pay attention. You know, Samuel, Samuel. When God was emphatic about getting Samuel's attention when he was being brought up in the temple. Look for those. Look for the times where God is saying something twice because it actually establishes facts surrounding the incidents. So possible interpretations, I am who I am is the most common translation emphasizing God's self-sufficient, self-existent nature, and this suggests that God's essence is being defined by his own being. He simply is. I am that I am. Some translations focus on God's sovereignty and independence, indicating he cannot be fully defined or limited by human understanding. And that's the problem we have when we box something in to a name. We actually go into that box rather than keep it in the realm that it was presented. And this is just one of those amazingly profound places of how he does it in revealing himself in the breath of the ancient Hebrew letters, Yod, He, Vav, He. The key themes is that there's an eternal existence, that God exists in all times and is not bound by past, present, or future. that there's self-sufficiency. God is the source of his own existence, and he relies on nothing and no one else to be, because he is I am. You see where a name would would box that in. He has an unchanging nature. God's character and essence remain constant. So when we have arguments to reading scripture where we're justifying wickedness or an evil action of who is called God, then he has a changing nature, not an unchanging one. So my question must be then, if Yahweh is the conventional name, the nature of God, then who is he to you? I had to ask myself that. If it's a conventional name, and because there was one time I hadn't looked into it, I just went with the crowd. And it seemed very spiritual, I guess. But when I come into it, if it's a covenantal name, then who is he? Is he a warring, angry, vengeful, or is his nature love and compassion? Once I saw this about Aya, Haya, Asher, Haya, it conveys the idea that God's nature and existence transcends human comprehension. But then when I read that, I asked myself, does he really transcend human comprehension? Does Jesus's relationship with his Father seem limited in any way? Like, what does an intimate relationship look like? And if we are so loved, honored, and treasured by our Creator, that his signature, that's what we found out last week, his signature, his very nature would be embedded in our cellular structure, and it's positioned there and we are positioned here on earth with that to represent him. Can we say God is beyond us knowing him? I don't think so. And I realize when I read things like that, where people are saying that uh, that he transcends human comprehension, I go, no, no, he's my Father. He has brought me to this place of desiring intimacy at a level that I really have run out of words for. His very nature reflects as an absolute and independent being that highlights his eternal, unchanging, self-sustaining nature, and it is in us. In us. That really, we could stop right here and just say, let's just spend the next hour in his nature, his eternal being, who is unchanging, is in us. In the definition of Hebrew, it seems that by the expression of the Hebrew letters, Yod, He, Vav, He, is that it is a revealing of his nature. We know it was given in the Tetragrammaton, not in a name. It was given, it was a Tetragrammaton refers to the 4 Hebrew letters, Yod, He, Vav, He, which represents the biblical name of God. And I would say, I believe that it was not given to us this way so that we could search out the mystery of his name or give him a name, but to search out the mystery of his nature. That mystery's in us. Isn't that exciting? The word tetragrammaton comes from the Greek, meaning tetra, meaning 4, and gramma, meaning letter. So literally, it simply means 4 letters. Yod, He, Vav, He, most closely associated with the God of Israel in the Old Testament, isn't used in the New Testament. Have you ever asked why? We have lots that we can talk about. Have you ever asked why? The exact pronunciation of Yahweh has been lost over time because ancient Hebrew did not have written vowels. And out of reverence, Jews avoided saying this name out loud. Instead, they substituted other titles like Adonai, meaning Lord, when reading the scriptures. And today, many scholars believe the name was likely pronounced Yahweh. However, others use terms like Jehovah in reference to the divine name, though Jehovah is derived from a later misunderstanding involving the vowel points of Adonai being added to Yahweh. That's a lot, that you can go search out. But the Tetragrammaton is considered to be sacred in Jewish and Christian traditions. Its hidden meanings emphasize God's eternal, self-existent, and unchanging nature. If the Old Testament scriptures that portray Yahweh as a tyrant, unloving, judgmental, and angry, does the name Yahweh in context of the scriptures that portray a warrior God without mercy reflect the eternal, self-existing, and unchanging nature as Christ portrayed it for us? Easy answer. No. Last week, we looked at the letters and the atomic number of each from the periodic table. I'm not going to go into that. And we were able to bring a definition of sorts at one level to that. But it's actually an invitation for us to go deeper. Because in Exodus, God confirms his name to Moses. He affirms his identity as Yahweh, or as written as Yahweh. God said to Moses, I am the Lord Yahweh. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob as Almighty God. But by my name, I did not make myself fully known to them. Isn't it interesting that although this scripture says God appeared to them, he didn't make himself fully known to them, yet we hear that Yahweh appeared to them. You know why? Because that's man-made religious structure. And we just assume. In the Shema, in Deuteronomy 6, one of the central declarations of faith in Judaism, the Shema, emphasizes the uniqueness of God. Hear, O Israel, Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, with all your strength. Here, Lord translates from Yahweh, emphasizing that Yahweh is the one true God. But now remember, that term Yahweh has been put in there by man. If his name is his nature, then we will have to choose. We know that what we give our attention to will expand. If we have our understanding in the nature of God, we will see him as Yah, Yod, He, Vav, He, and we will understand him by his nature rather than a made up name that man gave him. And the reason, if we had started in the first place understanding the nature of the living letters of the Yod He Vav He as we have found it in the God code, then we would have gone after the right thing. It wouldn't have been that a God that is put in a box. It would be a being that has expressed himself to us by his breath, and by his breath we would explore the invisible mysteries of who he is. In Isaiah, it says God declares his name and his glory. I am the Lord, that is my name. I will not yield my glory to another or praise to idols. This verse highlights God's uniqueness and sovereignty. We understand this sovereignty not by calling him a king or by an idol or by a name, but by relationship that's modeled by Christ for us to become one. Do you know God never wanted a king? He never wanted us to have a king. He did not want a hierarchy system. He didn't want any form of idol worship. He didn't want us to have the example of someone or some things that have authority or sovereignty over us. He wanted to be all in all to us in us in him. And because he wanted us to be one with him. and to move there and have our being in him. Confusing scriptures with kingship is a cultural base of understanding. It is not one ordained by God. And I don't know, someday we may unpack that more, but that's worth a study. As a matter of fact, because we have free will, the greatest gift he gave to us when we begged to go the wrong way, when Israel wanted a king, and God didn't want them, but he gave in. Psalm 106:15 says, he gave them their request, but he sent leanness to their soul. You see, our will is a privilege. Our free will is a privilege. And God stands by the fact that we have it. So in this verse, in Psalm 38, talks about God's supremacy. Let them know that you, whose name is Yod He Vav He, that you alone are the Most High over all the earth. He is supreme over all the earth, not just a part, not just one country or people. He is equally, unconditionally loving all of us. He does not favor ever one race, one geographical location, one culture over another. He does not. He loves us all as if we were his only child. Imagine that. Jeremiah 33:2 says God is the creator. And here it says, this is what Yod He Vav He says, he who made the earth, who formed it, established it. Yod He Vav He is my name. If we're going to use the word Yahweh, who made the earth and formed and established it, then we would have to notice that all that was created was good, right? Creating good is the nature of the creator. But when a God is referred to as destruction and prejudicial to one race or a nature or nation over another, is that God good? I'm just bringing these things up so we don't continue just to read blindly. Isn't that an oxymoron? But truly, like, get the veil off of our face and not sit and just read like bobblehead puppies in the back of a car window. You know, they sit there like this because we're used to some kind of concept. We need to go to inspired writings and think and ask questions and have the conversations like hopefully we'll have tonight. The symbol Yod He Vav He is the code. It's the code to the specific nature in which God reveals himself. It's often translated as Lord in English Bibles. When you read it in terms, when you read it, I'm encouraging you, read it in terms of love, compassion, truth, kindness, patience, joy. That's the fruit of the Spirit. That is who he is. We can read it also in the terms of understanding that God is omnipresent. I'm just bringing in just this for fun. He's omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. These are theological concepts that describe the attributes of God. And while these specific terms don't appear in the Bible, they have been derived from scriptural teachings that reflect on the nature of God that Jesus called Father. And it's when we look behind the scenes of the living letters of the Hebrew alphabet that we can see the nature of his being as omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent. This is what these words mean. It's kind of fun. Omnipresent. The prefix is omni, and it's the Latin prefix meaning all or everywhere. The root word is present, referring to presence or existence in a particular place or time. The meaning is omnipresent means being present everywhere at the same time, and it describes God's ability to be present in all places at the same time. You are omnipresent. Simultaneously, he can be there without being limited by space or time. His existence is everywhere in creation. In theology, the term conveys that he is always with his creation. Nothing is hidden from him. Psalm 139, 7 and 8 says, "Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? There is no place. He is there. He is in us. We are the I am. He's omniscient. Omni means all, scient means from the Latin, are you ready? Meaning knowledge, and it's the root of the English word science. God and science meet in the omniscient. Omniscient means having complete and unlimited knowledge, everything that can be known, past, present, and future. The related concept to this is God's knowledge and wisdom, his infinite understanding and insight into all things. How about that? How about this? I am omniscient. In theology, omniscience describes God's ability to know all these things, the events, thoughts, motives, and possibilities, including things that are not yet realized. You know what? I am omniscient. Those sound a little heavy duty. We'll talk about in a minute. He is omnipotent. Omni meaning all, potent meaning powerful or strong. Omnipotent means to have unlimited power or the ability to do anything that is logically possible and consistent with God's nature. We can even say consistent with Christ's consciousness. It means that God's sovereignty and almightiness, his supreme power, rules over everything. The omnipotence refers to God's ability to create, sustain, govern the universe, perform miracles, accomplish his will without any limitations. Jeremiah 32 says, "O Lord God, it is you who have made the heavens and earth by your great power, by your outstretched arm. Nothing is too hard for you." I am omnipotence. How about that? God is present everywhere at all times, all-knowing with complete knowledge of everything, all-powerful. And these terms also define our I amness. I'm going to skip over something here. Yahweh is now widely accepted as a most accurate scholarly reconstruction of a divine name, representing a shift from ancient form of Yahweh, of Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh, into modern vocalized language. My challenge to this is, it might be an accepted scholarly reconstruction of the Hebrew letters and therefore considered accurate name, but there's a huge but. You know, when you say but, it cancels out everything before it. Let's ask, does it in its use reflect? Does it mirror the nature and the character of a loving God? You know, the term Yahweh has become a loan word. A loan word is a borrowed word. It's a word that's adopted from one language and incorporated into another without translation. So we have adopted Yahweh into English, what was created by man in Hebrew. It wasn't given to us as God's name by God. It retains its original form, or it's slightly modified to fit the phonetics and grammar of the borrowing language. That's what a loan word does. And in our case, in English. So that when we read or when we hear a person speaking Hebrew and using the word Yahweh, we haven't translated anything. We've just adopted it. We've loaned it. We're borrowing it from another language and using it as our own. The loan words often enter a language due to cultural or technical or trade exchanges between peoples or society, like the word ballet is actually a loan word from French. It didn't get changed. We just borrowed it and made it English. The word piano in English is borrowed from Italian. Loan words are different from translations, where there's a meaning of a word or a phrase. It's translated directly into the borrowing language instead of taking the original word itself. So if we hadn't adopted that loan word of Yahweh, we would be now saying and breathing out Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. So last week, I shared a guided meditation with you to help settle the fact that science actually speaks of the translation of Yahweh, of Yod He, Vav He, to say God eternal within our body. When we speak, we create. We know that. When we say, I am, we unite with God in his nature. When we recognize the living letters of Yod, He, Vav, He as our reality, we give ourselves opportunity and we give ourselves permission to become what we say. And that's why a guided meditation can be so powerful, because you can rest in what is being said. And if it connects with your heart, receive it. And then when you receive it, it becomes your opportunity to become what is being said. I really hope that helps. And there's many ways to activate this principle. As we set our hearts to the reality of our I amness, what we actually are, there comes a time when it begins, the reality of our I amness begins to go before us. And then we begin to step into the reality of that from our sacred self. And I want to explain that. Just what if you have a symptom in your body? What if that symptom, we'll say, is pain? Do you know that when, instead of giving your focus to the pain, when you stand in your I amness, when your I amness becomes who you are, then you become the observer of the pain, and the reality of the truth, which is I am health, is actually what you step into. And then in your breath of that, because you'll already be established in the truth of it, you will attract what it is you know, which is your health. That sounds like a real circular thing, but how can I say it in another way? The more we become, the when we are meditating, when we are setting our hearts to the solidarity of the I am understanding of who we are, like I am health, and leaving that to God to manifest in our life, or to create in our life, whatever it is. We stand in the reality, in the truth. And then because we release that completely into the universe of God, that is exactly what we are. And It's like our heartbeat. You don't make it happen. Your heart beats because it's part of your system of how you're made. When we live from the I am, it becomes part of the system of who we are. And when we have things that happen to us, like pain in our body or lack or whatever, our mind is set on those things above and not on the earth. And when they are, because they are, God changes us into the reality of our I amness. Oh, I hope somebody can work with that. Anyway, there might be questions that you have to deal with tonight, and I am not Yahweh bashing, okay? I'm just asking questions. I feel this conversation is an important one. What if God doesn't have a name? What if you are the expression of his name? The two things that this creates is that if this is our reality and it becomes true, it's a sense of honor and responsibility that all of us have. And I truly hope for all of us that we may have the sense of both without any kind of guilt or shame or frustration. This isn't a time to say, well, it's easy for you to say but I have things I have to deal with. No, the fact is, whether we have stuff to deal with or not, our reality is our I amness. It is, it is, it is. It's in the code. It's in our DNA. And when we do what we need to, we become what we're created to be. We step into our resurrection reality as sons of God, that all creation is groaning for, that we be revealed to the ultimate maximum of all that. The Hebrew letters actually play a central role in unlocking the unlimited realms and dimensions of the mysteries and secrets of Yod He Vav He. And there seems to be an increased desire in many of us to learn and understand more of what is placed or been of that place in us and what science is confirming. And that's why we looked at that last week. The Hebrew letters are actually living emanations, and an emanation defined as an abstract but perceivable thing that issues or originates from a source. Emanations are mystical. Isn't that okay? Hebrew letters are living emanations from within God, our creator, our source, within us. By his breath, by the vibration, the frequency of the sound, the living letters came forth. These are actual energy force that emanates from within us, but like many things that are in our body, they are dormant until we, by our free will, release the frequency of them. These letters are alive in us. They are a creative power that gives us unlimited access to Yeshua, Jesus, to God. We become the way, the truth, and the life in him. In him we live. In him we move. In him we have our being. In him all secrets and mysteries are encoded. Therefore, in us are all the secrets and mysteries encoded. There's an energy force within us, more powerful and intense, a creative ability that is unlimited, and it is I am. There is no technology greater than Christ in us, the hope of glory. He is I am. In Hebraic thought and study, I'm going to finish with this. Different levels of engaging the Hebrew letters are called, I'm not sure the pronunciation, Pardes, parades, meaning an orchid, paradise or garden. And they have many levels, these letters have many levels of understanding and truth. So last week when I presented some of the levels of understanding, I'm saying they are just scratching the surface. Here's the four letters of the Hebrew an understanding of the Hebrew letters. The one is first is called Pesat, and they speak of only what's on the surface, just the plain contextual meaning. There's a remez. Sometimes that letter will reveal what's hidden and symbolic below the surface, allegorical. The third is darash, and that means it gives opportunity to inquire or seek for metaphorical meaning. Allegorical, metaphorical. It has a lot of levels. And the sod means that these letters reveal secrets, mysteries that come through inspiration or revelation, hidden meanings. These are in us, in us, in us now, all of those levels. So when we engage, if you have time to spend some time in that guided meditation, know that it's one level, and know that as you take the letters yourself, you can add your own by adding whatever it is that you're being shown, whatever. If it's a if it's a you may hear things from Father that's completely off the scale from anything. Maybe he's revealing a mystery because you have positioned yourself in the reality and released from you what it is that he wants to meet you in intimacy with. How about adding, I am omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent? How about that? How about spending time just in quiet and saying, I am omniscient, and taking all what that means. I am omnipresent. I can be everywhere at the same time. Just sit and meditate. That is you. You are, he is in you. You are in him. You are one. It is your I am heritage. Give yourself time to reflect and realize your I amness. And that's why I wanted today to just sort of do this as a part to I know there's a challenge in here because I may have I may even have offended some people. I don't know. But you know what? It's worth the conversation. But the best part of this is that we can go into that place in the silence of I am and meet with Father there. I just believe that's Jesus did that all the time, didn't he? He went from the crowd and he went into that mountain just to be with Father. And unless we give ourselves time to reflect, we won't come into all the different levels of of what he wants. But when we do, oh my golly, it changes everything. And I'm just gonna end here because I'd like you, if you haven't uh, had the time, to maybe spend a little time in the guided meditation throughout this next week, and just sit with it, but expand it as well. Expand, just you'll know exactly what to do. You'll know what you need to do. You'll know what's important to you, and just let him love you. And as you open yourself up to Father, to the most amazing divine being ever in the universe, you'll realize more and more how much at one he wants to be with you, and how he wants to show you the mysteries, not only of the kingdom that's in, and not only of himself, but of you, the mysteries of you, because you are all him. So I am going to come back into the gallery view and ask if I have offended anyone. How about that? Are you laughing at me, Margie or Maggie?
I'm not laughing at you, Helen. I'm
Okay.
just laughing because
Okay.
I'm tickled by your whole discussion. talk. Absolutely amazing. You haven't offended me. That's the first thing.
Okay.
I am the wiser. I am the wiser, and I want to dive. Thank you so much.
All
I
right.
think you're brave to ask if you offended anybody. I always never ask.
Well, I get to say, oh golly, I'm sorry. But that's the best part of conversation, isn't it? I've just given myself away in mine, but somebody has to start it.
It
Or
was beautiful. Thank
or
you,
not.
Helen. I really loved the whole way you presented all of that. And it's not like we have any big fat answers, but wow, did it open up a whole new area, uh, further areas of study and interest. And I don't know, it's important because I love the fact that it's not about the name of God, it's about the nature of God.
Yeah.
And then that becomes about the nature of who we are and brings us into our identity and our purpose and our you know
Yeah.
why we're here and what we're doing and how we respond to things,
Mm.
not in and of ourself, me, Gina, but um, in my sacred self. Um,
Yeah.
and so it changes the perspective of our lives.
Yeah. I thank you for saying that. It really has changed my whole perspective
Hmm.
on my life. Uh, and and I feel so privileged, I feel privileged just for myself, not, how it's not a pride thing, but privileged to know this is us.
Yeah.
It's all, whether people that we deal with or share our life with or come to meetings with, it is this beautiful equality of oneness that we are who he says we are.
Mhm.
That's there's no hierarchy here. There's no you're on first, I'm on second. No.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, today I had two conversations with two different people in the clinic while they were waiting for their people to have their treatment about all of this.
Oh,
Very interesting. And I thought, well, okay, you're asking this question and I'm going to ask this question. And it came into this beautiful discussion about our identities and who we are and why and how we can, um, discover that
right,
and not in a religious way.
right.
It was quite fun. And so I'm sort of sitting here laughing because we talked about these very things today. I think it's really, really funny. And so I feel like, Helen was discussing that, I mean, deciding and studying and presenting this tonight. So it was already in the atmosphere. Must have picked it up someplace.
Hardly.
So it was interesting.
Yeah. Wouldn't we be a powerhouse if we all truly came to that ultimate understanding that we are totally all in with him,
Yeah.
omnipotent, omniscient, um, um, where did I miss one?
Omnipresent.
Omnipresent. That is our oneness, all powerful. Not like we are totally unlimited.
Yeah.
Because when I was spending time asking about the mandate for this hurricane, I went to my Bible and I said, Jesus, like, what'd you do? What'd you do to get rid of this storm? And he it was peaceful. He just said, peace, be still. And so that's what I did. I just went into the eye of the storm and brought peace.
No, well, you might as well have been on the intention yesterday.
Well,
All of that.
there you
How
go.
fun. I mean,
Oh,
that's beautiful. So we are one.
yeah, yeah. And in my activation of that, I was alone in my room. I haven't left this little corner of the room since early this morning, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, Lord, I'm just one doing this little part of it. What would it be like if there was just one, masses of us?
Yeah.
And I had the sense that all it takes is for the obedience of one, because we are already one, whether there's 100 of us or whether there's one. So I went into all of that. It was quite fun, actually. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
totally.
Thank you for tonight. It was really great.
Oh, good. Eddie, you are there.
Hi, Helen. Um, you continue to talk about God treating everyone equally, and how do you explain when 3 or 4 people lose something, and I'm the only one that finds it or told where it is, or where 3 or 4 people are sitting in a room and and they're believing for you know for for a doctor to call in a week's time, or a week's appointment, and and I believe that it's going to happen right now, and it does. And I say, like, I'm God's favorite, and you're saying nobody is, and I'm going, well, like,
Uh,
how do you explain these things that happen?
how about the fact is we're all God's favorite. We use those terms to put ourselves on some kind of a scale, and we are so equal in Him, um, and there is no hierarchy. That's why He didn't want a king. That's why He didn't want us looking at other gods, other worship. Because He wanted us to come into this oneness, and maybe sometimes if if we're still operating out of our ego, it might make a difference whether people know or not. I don't really know. I think I know what you're asking, but um,
Well, I'm
without,
blown away by things that happen, and to me, and the other people are standing beside me, and they're sort of disagreeing, and and I'm going, no, and it does, and they go, wow, like, so yeah,
yeah,
I'm not trying to be a hierarchy. I'm just saying I get lots of favors.
yes, you do. Yes, you do. Absolutely. Plank family.
Me this time.
Hi,
First.
Elizabeth.
Oh, Todd's going to be after me. Yeah, I want to share that I learned that in Aramaic, I am that I am is actually I. There is no verb like to be. So it's I. It's the infinite I within the personal I.
Wow.
Yeah,
Lovely.
that
Lovely. I love that.
glorious.
I love that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look that up. That's so good. It takes it to another level, right?
yeah, it
It's like
does.
the Remez. Yeah. That's really great.
Yeah,
Do I get credit because I made her share that?
yeah. I have to share. And I was gonna say also, when you talked about, he never wanted us to have a king. Yeah, because we're looking outside of ourselves, but infinite I, like the ocean of bliss of infinite wisdom, and everything, all that is within, but we gave away our sovereignty, in all these different places. And you said he made them what was it that you said? Diminished soul or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, he brought leanness to their soul.
Leanness to our soul. Yeah. And also, even from that book, Dr. David Hawkins, I think it's in there, but the atoms, going back to atoms, our cells are made of, so many atoms, and the the electrons going around, that's our energy. But when we've given away our power, like, we're diminishing.
Yeah.
But we are infinite I in us all. So
Yeah.
I wanted to share.
I love that. I love that. It's sort of another way of understanding that when we come to that place of being the infinite I, right? Then that's who we are. So anything that comes to us, at us from the outside, that doesn't belong in there, gets looked after because we stay in the infinite I.
Yes. Yes, and when Paul said, I come to you, not just words, but in power, it's
Right.
because the power of the infinite I, as we're in this oneness and this divine flow, like, we're learning,
Yeah.
we're attuning now, we're
Yeah.
releasing all the ways we've given away our power, and we're coming back in. And I am totally excited too, Helen. I'm so amazed at this awakening, our consciousness just unfolding and expanding. And yeah, it's
No,
amazing.
I know. I'm with you. I totally love it.
Watch
Totally.
out, world. And another thing, I think a lot of us, have been saying to be still, because I was just reading to Jen a few nights ago in her Jesus Storybook Bible about Jesus asleep in the boat. And so he awoke and said, "Be still." And I was like, oh my gosh, all the Christs, as a storm comes, it's like, awaken
Yeah.
Christ and speak,
Yeah.
so yeah. Oh,
Um,
whoops.
and we are. I think I
Yeah.
think I think the biggest encouragement is we are. I love it. I love that. I am actually going to do a little deep dive in there. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And as
Awesome.
we're awakening, we're pulling up,
Yeah.
because we're one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Your
So,
turn.
yeah. Well, so what I was fixing to share just got changed while she was speaking because as you were saying that, right? When we're together, like you talk about Dr. Hawkins, and when we've heard this before, you know, the makeup, everything's made up of the same things in atoms. But where does the power of the most destructive power that we can do on Earth is to split the atom, is to divide the unity, to
Yeah.
divide energy, all that energy that's in there. When you split the atom, it has tremendous destructive power. But what are we trying to do as a people? We're trying to come up with, that's fission, splitting the atom. But what's a better way to create energy that is perpetual? It's called fusion. That is coming together. That is unity. That is bringing it together. So I just couldn't help but hear that when she was talking about the atoms and the makeup of our cells, and believe in the plan of the enemy or not, or just believe in the deception or our illusion. But every time we divide, it's destructive and it's really powerful. But if we could just figure out how to unite,
Right on.
it would
Right
be
on.
as powerful and more and perpetual.
Exactly. I like that perpetual part. We become a dynamo, right? Dynamo dynamic yeah, I love that. That's very rich. You guys need to bounce off each other more. This is really good. And there's our Jen, who is all joy coming on.
Yeah, she's
I know.
amazing.
She's so sweet.
She was just so lit up at when you were speaking about being favorites. And that's hard because I think you and I we are his favorites because we go through the same stuff. And it's amazing how he'll use us. And then we turn around and it's like, oh man, I just tore another limb off. And now I have to go through that again. But then I think he uses that time
Yeah.
to focus me, I would say,
Yeah.
but to be ready for something that I need to do or go through that's harder than the physical part.
Yeah, absolutely. And he
Things
takes you
easy.
through. He
Yeah.
takes you through these things, right? And you're stronger at the other end.
Yeah, that's the truth. That is absolutely the truth because I can tell you that there are things that I go through that are much harder for me to go through than the physical
Yeah.
rehab
Oh
through
yeah.
the pain of surgery or the pain of the injury.
Yeah.
She might argue that I get a little whiny and fussy, but um, I'm more fussy when it's mental, emotional, spiritual.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it shows you what's taking first place too.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you become the observer of your body. Your body's not running the show. That's pretty cool. Very cool. Wow. Thank you guys. That's awesome. Monsieur Beaumont, are you there?
I am there. Hello.
Hello. Bonjour.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Très bien.
Oh, c'est beau ça. I love the way that you intermixed all of this together, uh, with the Jewish true meaning, the Hebrew, and of course, other writers in which they went probably more in depth, I don't know, and mix it all together. It makes it ever so, how can I say, um, easier to see the truth and to realize, hey, yeah, it and how expand. Sorry, my French is kicking in there. How much of an expansion you brought it tonight. It's really beautiful. It's keen and it's clean, and you hear it. I hear it in your tone of voice. It's wonderful. There's something that caught my attention. You spoke about Moses, right, at the mount, and when God was saying, "You shall not make any statues or whatsoever of me." And earlier before that, you spoke also about, giving words of God, like Yahweh or any like any other type of name of God that was putting him in a box. And I'm wondering if his meaning at that time also was saying that you shall not give me uh, any types of names in which is making like an idol and putting therefore ourselves or minimizing everything into a box. I'm just a question out there, and but I'm there like, could it be also that it meant that?
Well, you know what, Jean, I think you bring up a very, very interesting. I have not thought about the way you are talking about it, but I think you've hit on something. And I think that for instance, as you're talking, I'm going, okay, remember when we understood putting in Jesus' name at the end of everything that we pray, in Jesus' name. It was almost like a talisman or an idol to do that. So that was sort of, the prayer wasn't finished until we said the magic words. And I think that's might be what you're hitting on a little bit too, that it's probably a much more a wiser answer than I'm giving, but I think you're right. I think you've hit a level of what we do, how we idolize something, even a name, and how rather than a being. He wants us to know him intimately by his being, and not only by a name. And Jock, I think that's worth exploring. We'll keep that conversation going. That was brilliant.
That would be great.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Lana, nice to see you.
It's nice to be here. Okay, so as you were talking, which I loved, you talked about naming things and how that boxes them up. And I just really, I was just thinking about that because there was one point years ago when I was saying I was nameless and faceless. A lot of people did not like that at all. And they're like, no, you can't be that. But anyways, I just thought it kind of fit with that. And then you were talking about the mystery of his nature. And I just thought about how we've lived under so many misconceptions with regard to the names of God. I don't even know what to say anymore. All I know is there's a whole lot of names I don't say. So source is a good one sometimes. But while you were speaking, I had this little what if. And I had, what if we, through our questioning and fear to move outside of our understanding, hold ourselves back from being and knowing we are, I am, and walking it out? It's simple, actually. We stand in our square, as Gina says, and breathe, a place of peace and rest. Just a thought as you were speaking. So anyways.
Well, that's pretty awesome, actually. I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah. The regarding name, you know, it can I know that I use the term God, but even saying God, creates a box a little bit. And I use the term Father because that's where I am right now in my life and relationship. And I know others use do different. I don't want anyone to come away from tonight thinking anything is wrong with a name.
All right. It's all where we're at, right?
Yeah, but understanding what a name does. If I can call Ed, he's coming in from the garage in his work boots and he's standing there on a floor that I just cleaned, and I go, Eddie. But later on, forgot about that. We're sitting after dinner, sort of quiet by the fire with a glass of wine, and I can go, darling, it's all in a name, but
right.
Uh, can be very useful.
Right.
I think what I have come to is needing to understand the I amness of the great I am is so full, and there are so many facets to him. We'll never come to the end of it. I mean, I think we're just starting to unpack some of the reality for the purpose of living in that reality, rather than living in out of customs or religions or have tos and all of that. To understand that that there is a being that almost there's a dichotomy. There's two sides of the coin. He is all of everything and too big. You can't get your arms around him, but he's also so perfectly in us that we can be hugged and we can hug back, There's so many mysteries that that we find ourselves in. I'm loving the mystery. I
Oh,
used
yeah.
I used to need more answers, and now I'm really happy with the mysteries. And I don't feel the mysteries are vague. Somehow in me there is an understanding that's settled and peaceful, and I quite like that.
Yeah, true. Beautiful.
Kathy.
I appreciated what you brought this week and last week as well. Just because these are things I don't stop and think about on my own. Like I just, I can. It's so easy just to go forward and move, be in relationship with God and not take time to stop and think about them. So I really appreciate you um leading us in that these last couple of weeks. One thing that you had said that reminded me of some of the studying I've been doing. Just finished with Richard Rohr, was just his explanation that God is relationship, and as opposed to well, God is a being, but it's like I think what triggered reminded me of that was Todd was saying about the dynamism, like the movement, the
Yeah.
energy and the movement, and we often talk about getting in the flow, right? And it's in that flow of God's relationship within himself and with us.
Right.
And the other description was about God is a circle dance, which I just really loved that
Yeah.
description because it is again a reflection of the love of who he is, that love. And so for me that just adds another dynamic of not putting a name on God, but also not it just expands my understanding and
Right.
yeah, perception and exploring into that more too. So
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Uh, how okay, when you say that you haven't thought about or don't think in these terms, or does thinking about them, like was there anything that you found, I don't know if the word is offensive, but that sort of you balk at?
no, I don't think so. I think it's more like intriguing. It's more like digging deeper for more treasure, right? It's like yeah, so it's more of an exploration
Right.
of who it is together are in relationship with.
Right. Good. Well, I appreciate that. That's gives me a little peace. That's good. I'd like to say I really don't care, but I care a lot, actually. That's awesome. Susan, where are you? There you are.
Found the mute button. Well, this was really enlightening, inviting. The intimacy part is provoking me. Now, I missed last week. I'll have to go back and listen to the meditation. Oh, I also need to go back to Gina's teaching because I really want that definition of sovereignty that she had. Going back to what he told me months ago to pick up my sovereignty.
Mm.
And so I've been really exploring that line upon line. So this just added more as it was talked about in your talk. But yeah, the whole, like, it excited me to go into discovering more of his nature. I mean, that's been my heart, my whole entire life is his nature.
Right.
And so I love the analogy or the discussion about the name, needing a name and using names and being name perhaps boxing in.
Right.
So I was recently challenged by another just say teacher. It was a class that I chose to take part of, and in it she challenged us that at our core being, our eternal being, that we have another name.
Okay.
She asked us to ask Father what that name was. I mean, I can't go into all the why
Okay.
she was asking that, but as Alana was just talking about the name being boxed in, and I kind of like my name, Susan, I'm okay with that, so, but when she asked and I listened and he spoke a name, and I thought, I don't really like that name. It was just the craziest conversation going on. I don't like this name. Like, why would that be at the core of my being? And so he had me just dig a little further. It was like the root word of a name, and what the original intent was of the name. And so it had to do with sovereignty and royalty, and it had to do with being industrious. It was just I mean, it just unpacked a whole lot for me. So yeah, names can definitely put you inside of a false reality. So anyway, I really loved, I have more questions than answers still, and that's okay. I'm really good with that. I did have a question, Helen. You said in your talk, you talked about God appearing to Israel, but not really revealing his full nature.
Yeah. Well, it says that he revealed himself to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right?
Right.
Appeared to them actually is the word, but he didn't reveal himself
Right.
of
Okay.
who
That's
he
what I wanted
was.
to ask you. Okay.
Yeah. So at that, I mean, they weren't Jewish, right? They were
Right.
part of the Mesopotamian Empire there, and so there would be I mean, that's a whole study in itself, culturally, spiritually, the whole thing, and how he appeared to them but didn't reveal himself. And
That's very key to me, for me personally. It's like I kind of had an aha moment there going, oh, wow.
right.
And yeah.
There's lots of
It
those,
was the
right?
beginning of something, though.
Oh yeah,
It was the
absolutely.
beginning of his revealing.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
I
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you. I wanted to
yeah. Isn't it fun?
focus
I
on that.
love that. Somebody else, was it Sam Mahoney talked about we have a spiritual name. I never got into it. But I I think these things are really interesting when they come along. First of all, they come along at a timely, generally at a timely, even if you have to just put something on a shelf, that just
Right.
it just comes up, right? And it doesn't become the focus of your existence, but it comes in there somehow to just undergird something. And I think that's part of the mysteries and the unveiling. And I love it because it doesn't otherwise you may not have gone digging that far, as it were. So that's kind of cool that happened.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it was unexpected, and I was uncomfortable. Like, why do I need another name? I was just kind of like going all different places with it, but I thought, okay, I'll go with it. And
Right.
it really did unpack some things about my I amness, honestly.
Right.
It
Awesome.
really isn't it just all about comes
I
down to that
ex-
identity of, so
yeah,
all of this conversation tonight has just been like, oh wow, that's just more of me. That's more of me.
yeah,
That's more of me.
yeah, true.
And there has been, at least for me, a massive amount of resistance
Okay.
in my discovery of me, my I amness.
Right.
I'm sure we all experience. I know I'm not the only one,
Mm.
but there has just been a massive amount of resistance, and I have a lot of questions for Father in the process of all of this. And I realize that some of it, not all of it, but some of it has been my own self.
Right.
And I, to my amazement, it's like, wow, I didn't see that one coming. But not all of it, but some of it. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But this has been really very, very, very enlightening. And I have more questions, good questions, though, in the discovery part. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Because you're helping us too to rest in some of the things that maybe have happened to us and haven't had words for it. So that's really great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maggie.
Yes, I've just come off because I just wanted to read something, and it's because I've just written it. I just want to just read it as I see it, in relation to what you've said, Helen, and others. I have to add. So, what if God has no name, and what if a name He does not claim? Instead, He sends an invitation to explore His animation, bringing us to mystery, purpose, identity, into sacred self and unlimited divinity. Offended? Absolutely not. Dear Helen, we bid you not to stop. Unpeel, uncover, help us to discover the exposure of His breath in this Christ-conscious quest. Supreme, overall, nameless one, guide us by the nature of your Son, Omni, the one and everywhere, in creation and beyond, to share in oneness of heart, in you, in us, from the start. We are what you are, one who is near and not afar, all that is within, and how we choose to lean. We know we need not look outside, but in you we choose to abide. No more leanness to the soul, no cry for a king, just to grasp the infinite eye to make us whole. Divine flow, cause us to know our awakened states and the miracle He makes. No limitation, no perpetual, but a perpetual invitation to dive, to thrive, to cause us to revive in our sacred selves and the God code within ourselves. Cries, Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. So we choose to unbox you, if we may, to let you exist as you choose, with every idol to cut and lose. Intimate one, our being, the sovereign and all-seeing, we give permission to become what we say, to rest in it, and to become what we may. May the symphony of breath cause us to soar and put to death constructiveness, destructiveness, and all things that box you in like a caged bird. Be free to reveal yourself completely.
Maggie, that sounded like the most profound prayer. Like, oh my golly. Oh my golly, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you so much. I would like a copy, right?
I couldn't not write it. It was like a picture, because what you said needs to be captured.
That is
And if I could, I would have captured it in a picture, but you can't. So I captured it in words, and I just had to capture it because what everyone else was saying was beautiful. It just makes up this whole symphony, really.
Oh, wow.
Thank
Maggie,
you.
thank you. You captured it. I love the picture and just the frequency. It really felt like a prayer. Yeah. Jacques said, definitely captured here. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome.
I'm just going to quickly interject, Maggie. That was beautiful. It was almost like a meditation. If I'd love to meditate on that.
And I was thinking that way because obviously when you started, Helen, you said, you talked about when we do meditate, we should be in it. We should, I can't remember the words, but you did start off about how we should meditate, and I captured that as well because I didn't want to forget it, and that's the only way I could not forget it was to try and put it in a poetic form because it's easier to remember because I can go back to that and it will make sense. But yes, Gina, it was based on what she was saying at the beginning, which this is how we need to meditate, really.
If
Be
you-
it,
See
it,
if we
be
could
it.
get a copy to do that, that would be great.
I will send it.
Thank
I'll
you.
type it up and send it around.
Thank you. And may I post it?
Of course, it's yours. It's everybody's. So it's
Okay.
all your
All right.
words.
All right.
Just,
No,
all I did was
no,
pen it.
Maggie, it's you. It's you, babe. But thank you. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay, Todd, beat that. Where are you?
We can't beat that. That
No.
was, oh my gosh. That was like the anointing just pouring forth. Whoa. The Christos, right? Oh my gosh. Well, it's hard to follow that, but I was just having a thought about earth, about creation being consciousness unfolding, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so even in the Old Testament, like, in the the lower stages of consciousness, how God had to reveal himself in a way for them, it like looking in a mirror, right? But that they would recognize us, them, people. And so, and even as consciousness has been unfolding, this unfoldment of consciousness, this, the names, the revealings, the revealings of who he is, who I am,
yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's really profound, actually,
Yeah.
because we're so connected to the earth, right? We're connected.
Yeah.
That's
And it's
another
all
area
him.
we can't separate.
Yeah, it's all him. And it's like we are, I am,
Yeah.
but we're also in this unfoldment process, both, this
Yeah.
time that like we've created, right? Or what, however that is, it's kind of an illusion or whatever, but it's the both parts. It's like we are, I am, we're the fullness, but we're also being this unfoldment of it.
Yeah.
So it's such a beautiful process. And so it has changed a lot, it's progressed and yeah,
I love the way that's,
Shababa.
I like that. I've gone back and forth on that. And I think where I'm most comfortable is what she just said is for me to go, well, why is that in the word? Why is that in the Bible? Why is that such a part of the culture of Jews even today?
Yeah.
And I do believe that Francois du Toit and Andre Rabe helped me really understand it. That saying he had to speak in a language that they would understand, that we would understand.
That's right.
And we understood blood atonement because we couldn't understand unconditional love.
Right.
But there were always people who could. And so I think it was that singular person standing saying, be at peace.
Yeah.
They've always been there. But the book was for the masses who had to go, I can't get there. I have to understand it on my terms.
Right. You guys are double ending that. This is really, really good. I'm listening and thinking you've nailed something because we are, I am, we're becoming, I am,
Yes.
we are, I am, and and I like what I like how you presented it because it freed me listening that I am became a box. Do you
Yeah.
understand? And that because that could easily become a dogma. It could become rather than a being who is becoming and who is becoming who is, and then
Yes.
in the cycles of our marvelous life here. Wow, that's something that could be taken into meditation. I'll tell you. You guys are amazing. Wow. Thank you for that. That opened up a whole other subject. Whole other paradigm. Wow. Well, I don't want to miss out on anybody if you'd like to to share anything. Well, I want to thank everybody for sharing tonight, for being part of the conversation, and the truly being, we will be continually being challenged in our I amness, because we've just started scratching that surface, right? We've just started, and we're going to go to a place and go to places that we haven't even got the question for yet. So don't worry about the questions. They're all going to come, surface, and we're going to help each other through it into just an amazing place. So if everyone's good. Oh, I wish I could hug you all. I'm actually in the process of looking for a retreat center, so maybe we could do something here in Winnipeg or outside of Winnipeg. What do you think of Wilderness Edge, Gina? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was thinking about that place actually, where
Oh,
the original What If was supposed to be.
yeah. We'll look at We'll look
Yeah.
at we'll look at it. Okay.
Yeah.
There's hope for tomorrow. Anyway. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Maggie, your poem. Absolutely. That's
Oh,
so beautiful.
oh,
Thank you for
beautiful.
your challenges. Thank you for your comments, your conversation. I love you all dearly. And I know the Lord blesses you. He keeps you. He makes his face to shine on you. He is so gracious unto all of us. We're all his favorite. He lifts up his countenance on us, and he gives us his shalom, his peace, nothing missing, nothing broken. I love you guys. Night. Good night.
Good night, everybody.